streaks are ridiculous. They're one of the reasons it's amazing being a fan of a sport that's existed for over a century before you were even born. We can take a look back at performances that were complete outliers with a minuscule chance of ever occurring. The chances aren't great of any guy going on a 20-game hit streak, but give him a whole career and it's far more likely. Now extrapolate that over a span of more than 22,000 careers, and it becomes a near statistical certainty. However, that doesn't mean achievements can't still be impressive. The fact that only one man in the history of baseball has hit consecutively in 56 games is telling of just how improbable Joe DiMaggio's hit streak was. But as incredible as Joltin' Joe was, I believe that the most improbable hit streak of all time happened just 11 years ago, more recent than the iPad, when the Cubs World Series drought was still fully intact. As I'm sure you've guessed from the thumbnail, the unlikeliest hit king of all time is Dan Uggla. Going through the 15 guys that have had a hit streak of 33 or more is a roll call of the most talented pure hitters of all time. You have Inner Circle Hall of Famers, George Sisler, Joe DiMaggio, Rogers Hornsby, Ty Cobb, and Pete Rose, whose spot was secure prior to his gambling issues being brought to light. However, Dan Uggla breaks that rule over his knee like a twig, sticking out like a sore thumb belonging to a 12-year-old who got picked to catch a Aroldis Chapman bullpen. Not built like your typical 1920s slappy contact hitter, Uggla was a sturdy 5'11", 210 pounds with at least 100 of those being pure biceps. He's far from the only second baseman on this list, joined by Luis Castillo, Chase Utley, and the aforementioned Hornsby. But he brought raw power very rarely seen at the position, ranking 11th in homers at the Keystone despite playing fewer games than anyone else inside the top 20. His atypical build and power at the position came with the unfortunate side effect of a strikeout percentage that climbed through the 20s and towards the 30% mark by the end of his career. A strong 11.4 walk percentage for his career buoyed his value, but hurt his already minuscule chances at a run to DiMaggio's record. Going off his career averages, that's more than 1/3 of his plate appearances in which he doesn't even put the ball in play. If you were building the ideal candidate to challenge Joe, Uggla would check almost none of the boxes, making the fact he made it over halfway to the top all the more stupefying. Uggla was no stranger to long odds, as even reaching the major leagues was a challenge. He had to wait until the 11th round to hear his name called in the 2001 draft, at a time when few others would get a shot at upper minor leagues, let alone the major leagues. Uggla put up solid numbers in his time with the Diamondbacks organization, including a strong showing in the 2005 Arizona Fall League, slashing .304, .390, .598, the only time in his entire career he would have finished a season at any level with an average over 300. His performance impressed the cost-cutting Florida Marlins enough to select him in the Rule 5 draft, securing his spot in the majors for a year should he play well. And play well he did, earning a nod to go to the 2006 All-Star Game with a .307 average and 13 homers at the break. He became the first, and so far the only player selected in the Rule 5 draft to make the All-Star Game the year he was picked. This newfound success was sustained over his first 5 years with the Fish, notching an OPS over 800 in each of them, and becoming a solid bet to slug 30 bombs a year. However, there was trouble in paradise as the Marlins, mired in mediocrity, decided to ship him off to save on his salary. He ended up landing with the division rival Atlanta Braves in exchange for Mike Dunn and Omar Infante. Atlanta is where the wheels of Dan's career start to fall off. In 3.5 years there, he struggled his way to a .209 average, and though he hit 36 homers his first year there, the strikeouts continued to pile up, limiting any value he could provide. In a strange twist, however, he was voted to start the 2012 All-Star Game despite a slash line of only 221, 355, 395. Uggla was able to muster a hit in an 8-0 dominant victory for the National League. After a freezing cold start to his 2014 season, Uggla was released, then quickly snapped up by the San Francisco Giants. Lasting just 4 games there, Uggla went hitless and made 2 errors, and I specifically remember Giants fans I know celebrating the end of the Uggla era. He latched on with the Nationals for the 2015 season, but was unable to hang around, hitting just 183 in 67 games before being released and never seeing big league action again. And yet, there was a stretch where Dan Uggla was transformed into something greater than anyone expected he could ever be. Like a phoenix, he first needed to be burnt to ashes. 2011 began awfully for the powerful veteran. Call it adapting to his new environment of Atlanta if you like, but at the beginning of July, he was slashing only 173, 241, 327. To draw a comparison between this point and the start of Joe D's streak, the Yankee Clipper headed into his first game batting 306, 422, 527. The last time Uggla had even had his average above the Mendoza line was May 16th, 44 games prior. Even after the streak ended, his average peaked at a measly 237. Joe, on the other hand, spent only one single day under 300 the entire 1941 season. Uggla sure had a tall task ahead of him. Game number 1 was July 5th, 2011 against the Colorado Rockies. After walking in his first 2 plate appearances against Rockies starter Jhoulys Chacín, Dan dug in facing Eric Stoltz in the 6th inning. With what I only have to imagine was a sheer look of determination on his face, he clobbered a ball to deep left for a home run, unaware of what he was setting off on. Doubling later in the game, Uggla had gone 2 for 2 and was only 55 games shy of the all-time record for consecutive games with a hit. With a homer again the next day, and running the board in a series against the Phillies with 1 hit in each game, Dan Uggla was on his way to the record books. Finishing 4th in All-Star voting for National League's second stackers gave Uggla a lot to chew on during the break, as he came back with a vengeance, smacking hits in another 5 straight games, falling 1 short of his career-high 12-game hit streak only a year before, in which he never equaled again the rest of his career. Ideally, when trying to maintain a hit streak, you want the manager to hit you as high up in the order as possible so you get the maximum number of chances to get a hit. The fewer at-bats, the less the odds that the hit streak will continue. Simple math. That's why it was so concerning to Uggla when in his second at-bat, he grounded out, coming up limping with a sore hamstring. Luckily for him, he was able to tough out the pain, powering through 2 more at-bats, and scoring Jordan Schaefer with an RBI single in the 8th to keep his streak alive. Although the Braves were forced to pinch run for him. This injury caused him to miss a game for the first time all season, making it a question of whether a stint on the injured list would be necessary to get Uggla back with a clean slate of health. The Braves opted against it, and 2 days later, with the game on the line, manager Freddie Gonzalez turned to Uggla to pinch hit in a pivotal spot. 9th inning, pinch hitting for the pitcher. It seemed like there was no situation in which Uggla would get another shot to extend his hit streak. It had to be now or never. In Kirk Gibsonian fashion, Uggla went deep to right center, both giving his team the lead and reaching his own new personal best for a hit streak. He didn't pull the ripcord as he rounded the bases, but I'm sure that he wanted to. Never in DiMaggio's hit streak was he asked to come off the bench or was pinch hit for, with at least 2 plate appearances in all 56 games. Dan Uggla had done something Joe DiMaggio never had. Uggla continued hitting like he never had before, including a 2-for-8 performance in a 19-inning marathon game, in which he went 0-for-6 after the third inning. The hitting continued as the calendar flipped into August, with August 1st marking his second 2-home run game so far in the streak. Then, 10 games later, he bopped 2 more taters. At this point, Uggla was a man on top of the world, batting cleanup on a hot Braves team, going 19-13 over his stretch so far, and was vying to either catch the Phillies for the division title or settle for a wild card berth. August 13th, 2011 sure felt like any other day. Dan Uggla continued his brilliance, going 2-for-3, slugging a homer and increasing his hit streak to 33 games, passing Harry Heilman and Hal Morris. Both those guys would finish with a career average over 300, with Heilman going on to hit .403 that 1923 season. Yet, neither could match Dan Uggla in the long run. Unfortunately, this is where his hit streak would come to an end. Matt Garza, then pitching for the Cubs, shut down Uggla, limiting him to an 0-for-3 night with a sacrifice fly. The odds had finally caught up to him, as they do with anyone, whether you're Pete Rose or Bob Uecker, whose longest career hit streak was 8, by the way. Speaking of the odds, over the course of his career, Dan Uggla got 1,149 hits in 5,509 plate appearances, approximately 20.9% of all plate appearances. I'm using his career mark to help him, as the year he hit in 33 straight games lowered his average. Crazy. Anyway, assuming 4 plate appearances in a game, the odds of him not getting a hit would be 79.1% to the power of 4, which is 39.4%. Seems like favorable odds until you consider the average MLB hitter in 2011 got a hit in 22.8% of plate appearances, and Joe DiMaggio's 1941 season saw him at an even higher 28.9%. As for the odds of a hitless game, it would be 35.5% for 2011 Joe Schmo, and Joltin' Joe would be at 25.6%. Now, just putting the odds to the power of the hit streak's lengths would provide some very long odds, but Dan Uggla wasn't fortunate enough to get 4 plate appearances every single game. For example, the odds of him getting a hit in the pinch hit home run game were just 20.9%. However, the 9 plate appearance, 19 inning affair provided him with an 87.9% chance of getting a hit that day. Doing this math for each and every single day gives us an absolutely ridiculous answer. This stretch of Uggla getting a hit in 33 consecutive games rounded off to 0.0.0%. You have to go all the way down to 0.0000165% to see what the chances are for him to get that. That's around 1 in 60,507 chances. But that's 60,507 stretches of 33 games, which turns out to be just short of 2 million games. That's the number of games Dan Uggla would be expected to play in order to put up a 33-game hit streak. 2 million games. He's more likely to be struck by lightning at 1 in 500,000. But I'm sure you're telling me DiMaggio surely must be more unlikely. After all, it was nearly double the number of games. However, using the same ideas, the odds for DiMaggio come out to be 0.0000398%. Still not likely and containing the same number of zeros, but it's not as close as you would think, because that is 3 times as likely as Dan Uggla's streak. Dan Uggla may never have had a 300 career average, or reach 3,000 hits, or even come close, but this will always be the most impressive hitting performance for me personally simply because of the crazy odds of it happening. Thank you for watching the video though, everyone. I really appreciate it and would love it if you liked the video and subscribe to see more, but have a great day, everyone.